"May I have your leftovers, ma'am?" Single Dad asked. But when the millionaire looked into his eyes, May I have your leftovers, ma'am?" The voice was no louder than a breath, fragile, hoarse, and dry like leaves rustling in a forgotten alley. Angela Bennett paused, her fork frozen midair. The greens on her plate wilted in the mellow autumn sun, but it was the voice that chilled her. She looked up. A man stood just a few feet from her table. His coat, several sizes too large, hung off his shoulders like a forgotten curtain. Threadbare sleeves, dirt-smudged collar, fingers trembling. His face was hollow, a map of exhaustion and hunger, but it was his eyes that struck her, clouded with pain but sharp with pleading. In his arms, swaddled in a worn pink blanket, was a child. Angela's breath caught. The bundle moved, and a cry slipped out, thin and hungry. A baby, barely more than a few months old, her face flushed from the cold, mouth trembling with need. Before anyone could react, the man's knees buckled. He crumpled to the sidewalk like a puppet cut from its strings, curling protectively around the baby, never letting her fall. Gasps came from the tables nearby. Silverware clattered to plates. A waiter reached for his phone. "Security?" he called out. "No," Angela said firmly, standing. "Wait." She stepped from her table, heart pounding, legs unsteady. Her heels clicked once on the pavement, then stilled as she knelt beside him. The man's breathing was ragged, each inhale an effort. Dirt coated his hands. But the baby... Angela's gaze moved to the infant. Blonde wisps peeked from the blanket. Her lips were dry, her eyelids puffy from tears. The child whimpered, no longer loud enough to cry properly. Angela reached out, her fingers trembling as they touched the baby's cheek. Warm, fragile, real. "Can I hold her?" she whispered, unsure if the man could hear. A faint nod. His eyes remained closed. Angela gently lifted the baby from his arms. She was feather light. Angela wrapped her coat around the baby's body, instinctively swaying side to side. The little girl whimpered once more, then began to settle, soothed by the warmth. Angela pulled a napkin from her table and dabbed the baby's mouth. "You're so beautiful," she whispered, barely able to breathe. "Like a little angel." But the moment cracked something deeper. A memory slammed into her with the weight of years. The hospital corridor, a monitor's flatline, her own heartbeat roaring in her ears, the doctor's voice. "We did everything we could." The crash, the bleeding, the photo in her purse, an ultrasound, a beginning that never reached its second chapter. She had been 16 weeks pregnant, and she had never held her baby. After the accident, the prognosis had been clear. She may never conceive again. Since then, Angela had drowned herself in work, built an empire, covered her pain with power and press, but she had never stopped aching. Until now, until this child. The baby stirred again, opening her eyes, round, trusting, seeing something in Angela she had long forgotten in herself. "You feel like the one I lost," she whispered, voice breaking. "Like the one I never got to hold." Angela sat gently on the bench, still cradling the baby. Her untouched meal steamed quietly beside her. She reached into her purse, almost on instinct, and pulled out a small plastic spoon, the kind she always carried for reasons she could never explain. She scooped a bit of mashed potatoes, offered it to the baby, who accepted the food in clumsy little bites. Angela smiled through her tears. Then she looked back at the man, still unconscious on the ground, his chest barely moving. "Call an ambulance," she said sharply to the waiter. "Now." The waiter nodded and stepped away, already dialing. Angela turned back to the baby, kissed her forehead softly. A small crowd had started to gather, whispers rising, but Angela saw no one else, just this child. And for the first time in years, she felt needed, alive, whole. "You're safe now," she whispered. "I promise." And she meant every word. Angela followed the ambulance in her sleek black sedan, her hands clenched tight around the steering wheel. The lights on the vehicle ahead pulsed against the buildings, silent but urgent. She barely noticed the cold air as she rushed into the emergency room. Inside, Jake, she had caught his name from the medic, was wheeled in one direction, the baby in another. Angela stood in the fluorescent lobby, heels clicking once before she stilled. "I'll stay," she told the nurse behind the counter. "With the baby, please." The nurse nodded. Most people recognized her. Angela did not care. Tonight nothing mattered but the child wrapped in that worn pink blanket. Hours passed. Nurses moved. Patients came and went. Angela sat unmoving, eyes fixed on the door where Emma had disappeared. She refused food, refused rest. The warmth she had felt holding the baby had not faded. It had only grown more urgent in its absence. As the night stretched on, memories crept in. It had been raining, just lightly, the day everything changed. Angela remembered the ultrasound photos tucked safely in her purse, the happiness blooming in her chest after a positive checkup. 16 weeks pregnant. She had been humming to the radio when the truck ran a red light. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. She survived. The baby did not. She remembered waking up in the ICU, numb and broken. Her fingers searched for the curve of her belly, but found nothing. A doctor explained the injuries, the surgeries, the cruel finality she might never conceive again. Her partner left soon after. Her parents had already passed. She had only her work, and she buried herself in it, building empires, staying busy, avoiding silence. But nothing could fill that hollow space inside where a heartbeat once lived. Until today. Until a baby's cry on a busy street pierced through her numbness, until she held that tiny body and felt something stir, something she had not dared feel in years. "Miss Bennett?" a voice called. Angela stood. A nurse approached, clipboard in hand. "The baby's stable, a little dehydrated, a bit cold. We're giving her fluids. She's going to be fine." Angela could only nod. "Would you like to see her?" "Yes," she whispered. The nurse led her down a quiet hall. Machines beeped softly, lights low. In a small room, a bassinet sat under a heating lamp. Emma lay bundled in a fresh hospital blanket, eyes fluttering, fists twitching in sleep. Angela moved to her slowly, reached out, and lifted her with care. The baby was warm and light, her cheek pressing against Angela's chest, as if she belonged there. Angela sat in a nearby chair, cradling the child. Emma whimpered once, then quieted, her breath evening out. A single tear slipped down Angela's cheek. "You came back to me," she whispered. "Not the same, but you came back." The nurse stepped out silently. Alone, Angela held the baby closer, eyes closed, heart full. For the first time in years, she felt something like peace. Like maybe, just maybe, fate had finally given her the chance she thought had been taken away forever. When Jake opened his eyes, the light above him was soft, the sterile ceiling speckled with quiet shadows. He blinked slowly, disoriented, the beeping of a monitor beside him grounding him to reality. He tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced him back against the pillow. For a moment, he panicked. Emma! Where was Emma? Then, as if summoned by thought, the door creaked open. Angela stepped in, holding Emma in her arms. The baby was sleeping, bundled tightly in a hospital-issued blanket, her small chest rising and falling with perfect rhythm. Angela's hair was pulled back, her expression unreadable, but her eyes, those sharp, blue-gray eyes, were softer than he remembered. Jake let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "She's okay," Angela said gently, walking to the edge of the bed. "She was just cold and hungry. They gave her fluids, ran some tests. She's strong." Jake nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if—" Angela shook her head. "You do not have to thank me." He looked away, ashamed. "I should not have come near you. I saw your plate, I thought. Maybe just a bite. For her, not for me." Angela's grip on the baby tightened slightly. "You were desperate. You protected your child. There is no shame in that." Jake sat up slowly, cringing at the stiffness in his back. "We should go. I do not want to cause more trouble. They will probably call child services. And you have done enough." Angela took a breath and looked down at Emma. The baby stirred slightly, nuzzling into her chest as if she belonged there. "I want to help," she said. Jake looked at her, eyes wary. "Why?" She met his gaze, unwavering. "Because I understand what it means to lose everything, and because when I held her, I felt something I thought I had lost forever." He frowned slightly. "You do not even know me." "No," Angela agreed. But I know pain when I see it. I know what it looks like to survive day by day for someone else's sake. I know what it feels like to hold a child and think, this is all I have left. Jake's eyes widened slightly. What happened? Angela did not look away. 5 years ago, I lost my baby. A car accident. I survived. He didn't. And I cannot have children anymore. Silence. The words hung between them like fragile glass, trembling in the air. Jake looked down, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry. Angela nodded slowly. So am I. Emma shifted in her arms, a soft sigh escaping her lips. Angela smiled faintly and brushed a hand over the baby's hair. Jake watched, something tightening in his chest. The way Angela held Emma, so gently, so naturally. Not like a stranger, not like someone doing a favor, like someone who already loved her. I was in my last year of med school, he said suddenly, surprising even himself. I was supposed to be a pediatrician. My wife Anna got sick during her pregnancy, stage 4 lymphoma. She refused treatment to protect the baby. By the time Emma was born, it was too late. Angela didn't speak, only listened. I dropped out, took care of Anna until the end. After that, everything fell apart. The bills, the house, I could not keep up. I worked where I could, but with a newborn, it was impossible. We ended up on the street 3 months ago. Angela's fingers brushed along Emma's cheek. The baby curled closer. She is your whole world, Angela said softly. Jake nodded, tears in his eyes. She's the reason I keep breathing. Angela stood still for a long moment. Then she looked at Jake, eyes steady. I have a penthouse in Midtown, she said. It has 3 bedrooms, a private elevator, and more space than I need. You and Emma will come stay with me. Jake blinked. What? I'll have the guest room prepared. You need time to recover, to figure things out. She needs stability, and I need to be near her. He hesitated. I don't understand. Angela stepped forward, her voice quieter now. I am not doing this out of pity or charity. I'm doing this because when I held her, something inside me healed, just a little. She might have saved you, Jake, but I think she's saving me too. Jake stared at her, the weight of exhaustion and disbelief pressing down on him. Finally, he nodded slowly. Okay. Angela looked down at Emma and smiled. Let's go home. Angela's penthouse was modern, airy, and lined with tall windows that let in the golden shimmer of late afternoon light. It was the kind of space that usually felt more like a gallery than a home. Pristine surfaces, cold marble floors, and curated silence. But within 24 hours of Emma arriving, something shifted. The silence became softer, the rooms warmer. There was a faint scent of baby lotion in the air and the sound of quiet coos echoing down the hallway. Angela threw herself into caring for Emma as if she had done it all her life. She ordered everything the baby might need: bottles, formula, blankets, diapers, a crib, toys, clothes. But beyond the material, she offered something far rarer: presence. She was there when Emma cried in the middle of the night. She was the one who learned how to warm a bottle just right, how to hold her at the right angle so she could burp without discomfort. She changed diapers with unhurried care, humming soft melodies as she worked. She bathed Emma in a basin set up in her own bathroom, giggling with the child as water splashed across the marble counter. She read stories to her at night, even if the baby did not yet understand a word. And Emma responded. She smiled more, slept better, reached out for Angela's hands as eagerly as she did Jake's. Jake watched all of this quietly, overwhelmed. No one, not since Anna, had ever shown this kind of love to Emma. Most people saw her as a burden, a complication, but Angela saw her as something sacred. He caught himself sometimes, just standing in the doorway, watching the two of them together, and feeling something inside him begin to mend. One afternoon, he found Angela lying on her back on the living room rug. Emma sprawled on her chest, giggling as Angela made silly faces. Jake leaned on the doorframe, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. The sight was so natural, so breathtakingly human, he almost forgot how broken his life had once been. I never thought I'd see her laugh like that, he said quietly. Angela looked up, her eyes twinkling. She has a beautiful laugh. Like bells. She gets it from her mom, Jake replied, then turned away, not ready to say more. That night, Emma fussed more than usual. Angela insisted on staying with her so Jake could rest. He tried to protest, but she simply raised an eyebrow and said, "I have 2 functioning arms and a heart that's learning how to use them. Go to bed, doctor." So he did, but sometime after midnight he woke with a strange tug in his chest. Something pulled him toward the nursery. He padded quietly down the hallway, barefoot, heart steady but full. He opened the door slowly. Angela was there, sitting beside the crib, slouched slightly in the chair, her head tilted at an angle, hair cascading over her shoulder. She had fallen asleep with one hand gently tucked through the crib bars, holding Emma's tiny hand in hers. The baby, nestled in soft blankets, was sound asleep, fingers still curled around Angela's. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. But in that gentle light, Jake saw everything he needed to see. Angela's fingers still and warm. Emma's face peaceful and safe. Jake pressed a hand to his mouth, his eyes stinging. A tear slipped down his cheek, quiet and unannounced. He stood there in the doorway for a long time, as still as the air around them. He thought of Anna. He thought of how she used to hum lullabies while rocking Emma, how she would stroke her cheek and whisper, "You're our whole world." And here, somehow, was that same world again, reborn in a different shape, in different arms, but just as loving, just as real. Jake stepped closer, kneeling gently beside the chair. He looked at Angela, her face soft in sleep, her chest rising and falling with the rhythm of someone at peace. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for loving her. Thank you for giving me back the image of her mother." He did not wake her. He did not move her hand. He simply sat there, keeping silent watch over the 2 girls who had saved his life in more ways than they could ever know. It began with a single photo, a blurry image taken from across the street. Angela Bennett stepping out of her penthouse, holding a baby in her arms, followed by a man in a worn coat. The caption read, "Tech fashion queen's mysterious new roommates?" Within hours, it was everywhere. Social media exploded. Gossip blogs speculated wildly. Secret love child? Billionaire adopts homeless man? PR stunt for sympathy? The theories came fast, some kind, others cruel. While some praised Angela as a guardian angel, others accused her of orchestrating the whole thing for attention. Jake found the headlines on Angela's iPad, left open on the kitchen counter. He stared in silence, his jaw tight, scrolling with trembling fingers. Every headline cut deeper. Angela entered the room moments later, holding a bottle of formula in one hand, Emma in the other. Jake turned to her, voice low. "They think I'm part of a show, a prop." Angela didn't flinch. "Let them." "You don't get it," he replied. "You have a name, a company. This could destroy your reputation." She set the bottle down, gently placing Emma into her bouncer. The baby cooed, blissfully unaware. Angela looked at Jake calmly. "I know exactly what this could cost, but I also know what matters." Jake stepped closer. "Maybe we should leave. You've already given us so much. We don't want to be the reason." Angela cut him off. "This is your home, Emma's home. I don't care what people say. I care that she sleeps safe and you're not starving on a sidewalk." Jake shook his head. "They're saying awful things about you." A soft, sad smile touched Angela's lips. "They've said worse. Since the day I made my first million, people have called me cold, too ambitious, heartless. None of it mattered. But this," she glanced at Emma, "this is the only thing that has ever felt real." Jake was quiet, but his chest ached. Angela's voice softened. "I lost my baby, and something in me died with him. I stopped hoping, stopped feeling, until I met her. I won't let the world shame me for loving this child like she's mine." Jake lowered himself into a chair, burying his face in his hands. "I just don't want you to be hurt for helping us." Angela walked over, laid her hand on his shoulder. "Then let me fight for this. My way." The next morning, she scheduled a press conference. Her PR team panicked. Her board objected. She didn't budge. The room was packed. Angela stepped on stage wearing a simple white blouse. No jewelry, no makeup beyond necessity. Jake stood backstage, Emma in his arms, heart pounding. Angela waited for silence before speaking. "I know there are questions," she began. "I'm here to answer them, not with spin, but with truth." She paused. 5 years ago, I was in a car accident. I lost my child. I was told I'd never carry again. Since then, I've built companies, earned accolades, filled my life with noise, but I've never stopped feeling empty. The room stilled. 2 weeks ago, I met a man named Jake and his daughter Emma. He asked for my leftovers while collapsing on a sidewalk, and when I looked into that child's eyes, I saw something I thought was gone. Hope. She looked directly into the camera. This is not a PR stunt, not a campaign. This is me choosing not to walk away from a miracle just because it arrived in an unexpected form. I didn't go looking for a child, but maybe the child found me. Angela stepped back, voice steady. "I won't turn away from that. I never will." For a moment the room held its breath. Then applause began, hesitant at first, then rising in waves. Some reporters remained stoic, but others stood. Somewhere in the back someone whispered, "She meant it." Backstage, Jake held Emma tighter. In that moment he knew Angela had not just spoken the truth, she had freed them all with it. Angela moved fast, as she always did when something truly mattered. Within days, she assembled a legal team to help Jake reclaim his identity, processing documents, confirming guardianship of Emma, and clearing the red tape that had buried him during months of survival. She reached out to Columbia University, where Jake had once studied, and personally advocated for his return. Backed by her support, the school welcomed him to complete his degree. Jake never imagined walking those halls again. Years ago, he had arrived with dreams and a backpack full of textbooks. Now he returned with a daughter, a broken past, and a rare second chance. Angela supported him through it all. She handled Emma's medical checkups, stayed up during teething nights so Jake could sleep before exams, and prepared quiet dinners when he came home drained from clinical rounds. She even learned how to make Emma laugh during diaper changes, something Jake still struggled to master. Emma thrived. Her first word, light, came while reaching toward the chandelier in Angela's office. Her first steps were taken in the penthouse hallway, toddling joyfully between Jake and Angela. She lived in a home where love wasn't explained, it was lived. Together, the three of them became something quietly beautiful. Not quite a couple, not officially a family, but something whole. Their days wove into a rhythm. Flashcards at the dinner table while Emma played with peas. Mornings where Jake napped on the couch, Emma curled on his chest. Nights spent whispering by her crib when she was sick, Angela's hand always close by. Jake's presence steady. They never discussed what they were becoming. They didn't have to. Then came the day of Jake's graduation. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Angela sat near the front in a pale blue dress, Emma on her lap, both glowing in the soft spring light. Jake's name was called. He walked across the stage, holding Emma in one arm, the weight of every hardship carried with silent dignity. He stood at the podium. The room stilled. "I thought my life ended when I lost everything," he began. "I dropped out of this program to care for my wife. She chose our daughter's life over her own. After she passed, I was just surviving. There were nights I went hungry so Emma could eat." The audience listened in rapt silence. Then one day, I collapsed on the street holding my daughter. I asked a stranger for her leftovers. I thought I was begging for food, but she gave me so much more. He looked at Angela. She gave us a home, gave us dignity. She gave me the strength to keep going. He turned back to the crowd. "I'm graduating not because I'm strong, but because someone was strong for me when I had nothing left. And because of her, Emma will grow up not just safe, but loved." He paused, voice quieter now. "I once asked for someone's leftovers. But that woman, she gave me an entire life." The auditorium held its breath. Then applause broke like a wave, loud, rising, unstoppable. People stood. Some cried. Emma giggled at the noise and buried her face in Jake's neck. Angela rose, hands clasped, eyes wet. Jake smiled down at her, He had once begged on a sidewalk, empty and broken. Now he stood tall, and he was no longer alone. The months after graduation were quieter, gentler. Jake started working at a nearby clinic, part-time at first, easing back into the rhythm of professional life while still taking care of Emma. Angela returned to managing her company full-time, but made sure her schedule ended each day with dinner at home. And that home, her penthouse, had transformed. It no longer felt pristine or curated. It felt lived in. There were toys scattered beneath the coffee table, sticky fingerprints on glass doors, and lullabies echoing down the halls. Yet it was never chaotic. It was whole. And in the stillness of that new rhythm, something between Jake and Angela began to shift. It was not dramatic, not a confession, not a kiss under moonlight. It was in the small things. How Angela handed him a coffee each morning without asking how he liked it. How Jake instinctively reached for her coat when she looked cold. It was how they always ate together, how they waited for each other to finish work, how Jake never left for his shift without saying goodbye to her, even if she was in the middle of a Zoom meeting. It was simply presence. Neither of them used the word love. Neither of them tried to define what they were. But every night, after Emma had been put to sleep, they found themselves in the same place, sitting on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, watching old movies or just listening to the quiet hum of the city. Then came the night Angela fell ill. It started with chills and a slight headache. She tried to brush it off, but by evening she could hardly keep her eyes open. Jake noticed her pale complexion and the way she leaned against the door frame just a moment too long. "You need to rest," he said, gently guiding her toward her bedroom. "I am fine," she muttered, but her body betrayed her, swaying slightly. Jake caught her before she could fall. "No arguments," he said. "Bed, now." He tucked her in, brought her water, and set Emma's crib near the bed instead of in the nursery, just in case. Then he sat beside her, reading her temperature and checking her pulse like second nature. She drifted in and out of sleep, sometimes mumbling, sometimes silent. Through it all, Jake stayed. When Angela woke again, it was near dawn. The first light of morning painted the edges of the room in gold. Her fever had broken. Her breath came easier, and beside her, the soft weight of something small and warm stirred. Emma! The baby had wriggled her way into the space between Angela and Jake, now curled into the crook of Angela's arm, still asleep. Angela looked down, heart twisting with something deep and tender. Then she looked up. Jake was there, sitting on the edge of the bed, head bowed slightly, eyes half closed but watching them both. "Did you stay all night?" she asked, her voice hoarse. He nodded. "Could not sleep. I kept checking on you." Angela looked at Emma again, brushing a curl from the baby's forehead. Her voice lowered. "Do you believe," she whispered, "that sometimes family doesn't need a name or a title?" Jake looked at her for a long moment. He reached out and covered her hand, still resting on Emma's back. "I believe that as long as we have each other," he said softly, "and she is loved, then nothing else matters." Angela smiled. Not the polished public smile the world was used to, but something smaller, raw, real. Jake brushed her hair back gently, his fingers lingering for just a second too long. He did not say anything else. He did not need to. They stayed like that for a while, the three of them forming a quiet, tangled constellation, neither defined nor declared, but unmistakably, undeniably whole. And for the first time in years, Angela did not feel like something was missing. She felt found. 1 year later, the same park where it all began looked completely transformed, though nothing had physically changed. The trees still arched overhead in a canopy of green. The sidewalk still curved gently past the cafe where a man once collapsed asking for scraps. But today, the air shimmered with something different, something sacred. Rows of white chairs lined the grass beneath the soft shade of the trees. Simple, elegant floral arrangements framed a small wooden arch at the front, twined with ribbons the color of morning sunlight. Friends and a few family members gathered, speaking in hushed, reverent tones, not because of formality, but because the moment felt too delicate to disturb. Angela stood just beyond the trees in a white dress, nothing grand or glittering, just a flowing gown that fit her like a whisper. Her golden hair was swept back loosely, a few strands falling freely around her face, glowing in the late afternoon light. She looked not like a bride from a magazine, but like a woman standing fully in her own joy, unapologetic, calm, and radiant. And at the end of the aisle stood Jake in a simple charcoal suit, holding his breath. He had once knelt on this ground, starved and broken. He had once asked for leftovers. Now, he was waiting for everything. Emma, now toddling confidently at 2 years old, carried a velvet box in her small hands. She walked the aisle with a wobble and a grin, holding the box like it was treasure, which, in many ways, it was. Guests smiled and laughed quietly as she reached Jake, who knelt and gently took the ring from her hand. Angela joined them moments later, and for a few heartbeats they just stood there, the three of them, framed by the trees and the same sky that had once watched a miracle begin. The officiant gave a brief welcome, then stepped aside as Jake took Angela's hands in his. He looked at her, not with nervousness, but with reverence. "I never thought I would stand in this place," he said softly, his voice carrying in the quiet. "I never thought I would have a home again, or a future, or love." Angela's eyes glistened. "I met you on the worst day of my life," Jake continued. "And you didn't just save me, you saw me. You saw Emma, and you gave us more than shelter. You gave us safety. You gave us belonging." He paused, tightening his hold on her hands. "Angela, you were never the woman who gave me leftovers. You were the woman who gave me everything I thought I had lost. A second chance, a reason to believe in something again, a family." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Angela didn't speak right away. She stepped forward and cupped Jake's face with one hand, her thumb brushing his cheek. "I didn't save you, Jake," she whispered. "You saved me too. You and Emma brought me back to life. You gave me the chance to feel what I thought I never could again, to love without fear, to mother without giving birth, to hope without holding back." She reached down, picked up Emma, and held her close between them. "This is our family," she said. "It began with a whisper, but it's louder than anything I have ever known." The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. There was no dramatic kiss, just a gentle forehead-to-forehead embrace, and then Jake pulled both Angela and Emma into his arms, holding them like he would never let go. As they walked back down the aisle together, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long golden rays across the park. It was not a fairy tale ending, not a scripted finale. It was something more honest, more real, a father, a mother, a daughter, and a love that had bloomed from the most unlikely seed. A moment of hunger, a plate of food, a look exchanged between two strangers on the edge of their breaking points. Now they were whole. And as they disappeared into the warm light of evening, their story became what it was always meant to be, not a tale of rescue, but a testament to how even the smallest moment of kindness can change everything. And so, what began with a simple question, "May I have your leftovers, ma'am?" became a journey of healing, redemption, and unexpected love. A man searching for food found a future. A woman grieving a child found a family. And a baby born into heartbreak became the bond that mended two shattered souls. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness, a shared meal, a helping hand, a soft yes in a moment of pain, can open the door to miracles we never saw coming. If this story touched your heart, made you smile, or brought tears to your eyes, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories, the channel where every story is crafted to heal your soul, renew your faith in humanity, and remind you that compassion is the most powerful miracle of all. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.